I realized my driver was stealing from me the same week I found out my husband was planning to ruin my life. And all of it started with something as stupid as a cup of coffee. My name's Hannah, I'm 34, and if you saw me from the outside 2 years ago, you'd have said I had it all sorted. Townhouse in East London, big job as a marketing director at a tech company in Shoreditch, handsome husband in a sharp suit. People at work used to say things like, "You and Tom are such a power couple." I'd smile and laugh and pretend I believed it. Inside, I was exhausted. My whole life felt like a calendar invite. Back-to-back meetings, late-night emails, Tom always pushing me to, "Just go for the next thing, babe, you're on a roll." When my company offered me a car allowance and a driver after my promotion, I honestly thought, finally, something that makes life easier. That's how I met Marcus, quiet, early 40s, ex-military vibes, always on time. He called me Ms. Reed no matter how many times I told him to use my first name. Every morning he'd pull up at 7:15, I'd stumble out half-dressed, and we'd do the same routine. Stop at this little indie coffee shop around the corner from my street, Bean and Leaf. I hated the big chains. I'd tap my card through the window, Marcus would go in, come back with my flat white with oat milk and his Americano, and we'd crawl through London traffic while I answered emails. That coffee became my lifeline. It sounds dramatic, but it was the only peaceful thing in my day that really felt like it was for me. So when that started to feel wrong, it hit harder than it should have. The first thing was tiny. One morning, Marcus handed me my usual cup, and when I took a sip, it tasted off. Too hot, too bitter, and that heavy taste that told me instantly there was regular milk in it. I'm lactose intolerant, so it's not just a preference for me. "Marcus, this is cow's milk," I said, lifting the lid. He froze for a second, then gave this little forced laugh. "Oh, sorry, Miss Reed. Must have mixed them up. This one's yours." He swapped the cups quickly, almost snatching it from my hand. It was such a small thing, but that half-second of panic in his face stuck in my head. I told myself not to be paranoid. People make mistakes. Maybe the barista messed up. Then it happened again, and again. Some days he'd come back saying, "They were out of oat milk. I'll grab you something later," while he sat there with a steaming Americano. I'd be in the back, caffeine-starved, trying not to be irritated. Between that and everything at work, I pushed it down. Until one Friday night, I was on the sofa half-watching some cooking show while Tom worked on his laptop at the dining table. He'd become obsessed with our finances over the last year, always tinkering with spreadsheets saying, "Just making sure we're on track, Han. You know I'm better with numbers than you." I let him. I was tired. If he wanted to handle the boring stuff, fine. My phone buzzed with a bank notification. I almost flicked it away out of habit, but the amount caught my eye. Contactless payment, $14.80, Bean and Leaf Coffee, Hackney. $14.80 for 2 coffees? I opened my app and scrolled back. Bean and Leaf, Bean and Leaf, Bean and Leaf, pretty much every weekday morning. And the amounts, $12.90, $15.20, $14.10, always more than 7 or 8 quid, which is what my flat white and his Americano cost. "Tom," I called, still staring at my phone, "does Bean and Leaf now charge 15 quid for 2 coffees, and I've just not noticed?" He barely looked up from his laptop. "London's expensive, babe. Stop stressing about coffee, that promotion's paying for it." I forced a laugh, but my stomach had gone cold. It wasn't about the money, it was the idea that someone was doing something with my car behind my back, counting on me being too busy or distracted to notice. On Monday I tested it. When Marcus pulled up, I climbed in and said, "Let's skip Bean and Leaf today. I fancy a Costa. Change of scenery." He hesitated, fingers tightening on the wheel. "You don't like Costa, Miss Reed." "It's fine. One day won't kill me." He seemed thrown. But he turned and pulled up outside Costa. I tapped my card, watched him go in, and this time he came back with exactly 2 coffees. The receipt was stuck to the tray. $6.80, 2 drinks, as expected. Next day I said casually, "Back to Bean and Leaf. I miss my flat white." We pulled up, and as usual I tapped my card through the window, but instead of staying in the car, I unbuckled my seatbelt. "I'll pop in too, stretch my legs." Marcus actually reached out a hand, then pulled it back. "No need, Miss Reed. I'll grab it. I've got it." I smiled and walked in before he could stop me. I ordered my flat white with oat milk. $3.90, please, the barista said. I turned to Marcus. "And your Americano?" He shifted on his feet. "I'll get mine later." "What? No coffee for you today?" I joked. He mumbled something about cutting back on caffeine. I paid. $3.90, not 14 pounds, not even close. The next morning, I pretended to scroll through emails while he ordered. I heard him clearly this time. Flat white oat, large Americano, and another flat white, same as the first, takeaway tray. My thumb froze above my screen. When he came back, he handed me 1 cup. No tray, no extra drink in his hands. I waited until the car pulled away from the curb. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yes, Ms. Reed." I watched his eyes in the rearview mirror. Where's the other flat white, Marcus? He blinked. That tiny glitch again. Sorry? The extra one you ordered. I heard you. He swallowed. Oh, they made a mistake. I canceled it. That's odd, I said lightly, opening my banking app. Still charge me for it. I angled the screen so he could see. Bean and Leaf, $12.60. His jaw clenched. The light turned green, but he sat there until a horn blared behind us. He jerked the car forward. I'll speak to them, he muttered. I didn't believe him, and at that point, it wasn't even really about the coffee. It was about what else he might be doing for someone, with my card, while I sat in the back emailing my life away. That afternoon, I told my PA I was working from home the next day. Then, instead of getting Marcus to take me straight home, I had him drop me near Liverpool Street, and I caught an Uber back to Hackney, 2 streets from Bean and Leaf. I texted him from my work phone, all good for today? You can head off. Thanks. And then waited, hood up, feeling ridiculous. At 3:30, right on cue, his black Mercedes pulled up outside the cafe. He went in, came out with a cardboard tray holding 2 flat whites, and drove off. I flagged another Uber, slid in, and said to the driver, "See that black Mercedes? Can you stay behind it but not too close?" The driver gave me a look but shrugged. All right. Marcus headed away from my office and my house, deeper into Hackney, then onto a quiet side street I didn't recognize. He parked outside a modern block of flats, grabbed the tray, and disappeared inside. "Can you wait?" I asked my driver. He nodded. My heart was hammering. After a few minutes, the door opened and someone walked out with Marcus. It was my husband, Tom, in the same shirt he'd worn when he left for his big client meeting in the city. He took one of the coffees from the tray, laughed at something Marcus said, and then turned back to the building. A woman appeared in the doorway, dark hair scraped into a bun, leggings, oversized t-shirt. Tom leaned in and kissed her on the cheek, casual, familiar, like he'd done it 100 times. My chest actually hurt. This was supposed to be his full-on office day. He told me over breakfast, "Don't wait up, hon. I'll be entertaining clients late." Meanwhile, he was here, in a random flat in Hackney, with my driver bringing him coffee I'd paid for. "Everything all right back there, love?" my Uber driver asked softly. I swallowed. "Yeah, just drive, please." That night, I sat at our dining table, picking at dinner, while Tom talked about his client. He was good, I'll give him that. Eye contact, details, even fake annoyance at how demanding the client was. I watched his mouth move and saw him laughing outside that flat. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because something about Marcus using my card, going to that flat, delivering extra coffees, made me think this wasn't just an affair. This felt like a pattern. 2 days later, in the car on the way home, I waited until we were stuck in traffic and said quietly, "How long have you been bringing my husband coffee behind my back?" Marcus stiffened. "I don't know what you mean, Ms. Reed." "I followed you," I said. "I saw you with him, at the flat, with the woman." His hands shook on the wheel. "Please don't get me sacked," he whispered. "How long?" He stared at the dashboard. 6 months, maybe a bit more. 6 months. My throat went dry. "Is that all you do? Bring him coffee?" He swallowed. "Sometimes I take him places, bring papers to banks and solicitors, drop off post at that flat. He said you knew, that you were too busy and he was sorting stuff for you. He made me sign things once, as witness, with your name on them. I thought—" His voice faded. "You thought I knew?" I finished for him. Outside, the traffic started moving again. Inside, everything felt like it had stopped. That night, after Tom went up for a shower, my eyes landed on our metal filing cabinet in the corner of the living room. The one he always said he'd keep nice and organized because I hated paperwork. I opened it. It was obsessively neat. Folders labeled with dates, colored tabs, plastic wallets. Not my style at all. I flipped through gas, electric, council tax, normal. Then a folder, investments, HR. Inside were letters and copies of forms with my name, Hannah Reed. Some were normal savings stuff, others weren't. One in particular made my skin crawl, Reed and Morgan Consulting Limited at the top. My name typed at the bottom, giving permission for this company to receive payments on my behalf for marketing consultancy. Morgan, my sister Lily's surname. I flicked through frantically. There were documents registering the company, share allocations, letters to my bank authorizing this company to manage income. All with my name, all with a signature that looked like mine, but off, too neat, too careful. I took photos of everything with my phone, heart racing. The shower turned off upstairs. I shoved everything back exactly as it had been and closed the drawer just as Tom came in, towel around his waist. "Hey, you okay?" he asked. "You look weird." "Just tired," I said, forcing my face to relax. "How was your big client?" He grinned and started some story. I barely heard him. The next week, my worst fear came true. I got called into a quick chat with our CFO. Small woman, sharp eyes, polite smile. "We've picked up some irregularities in our supplier payments," she said, sliding a printout across the table. "One particular vendor, Reed and Morgan Consulting, approved by you, paid by us, quite a lot." My vision blurred for a second. I don't remember approving them." She tapped her pen on the sheet. "The system shows your login, your digital signature. The payment started about 8 months ago. At first small, 500, 1,000. It's now over 80,000. 80? My hands started to shake. "We're not accusing you of fraud," she said carefully, "but we need to understand how this happened." I took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "Give me a week," I said. "I think my husband's been using my name. At home, too. I need to get proof." She studied me. "A week, and Hannah, talk to a solicitor. Don't handle this alone." That night, I texted my sister, "Urgent. Need to see you. Tonight." We met at a bar near Liverpool Street. Lily arrived late, smelling of cheap perfume and stress, her phone buzzing nonstop. She flopped into the seat opposite me. "Wow, you look rough," she said. What's happened?" "Reed and Morgan Consulting," I said. "What do you know about it?" Her smile died. She looked away, fiddling with her napkin. It's just a little thing. Tom asked me for some help ages ago, like a tax thing. Why?" "Lily," I said, my voice low. "It's my company's money. 80 grand has gone to that little thing, in my name. I found documents with my forged signature. My driver's been delivering stuff to banks. How involved are you?" Tears sprang to her eyes immediately. She's always been terrible at lying. "He said you knew," she whispered. "He said you hated admin, and it was all just moving income around so you paid less tax. He asked me how to set a company up because I work in accounts. I thought you'd asked him to." "Did you ever see me sign anything?" I pushed. She shook her head. "No. He'd just bring documents and say, 'Check this looks okay, will you, Lil?' I swear I didn't know he was doing it behind your back. He always made me feel like I was finally being useful, like I wasn't the mess-up little sister. I wanted him to be proud of me. I wanted to be angry at her. Part of me was, but mostly I was furious at Tom. He'd taken her need for approval and used it as another tool. "There's more, isn't there?" I said quietly. She hesitated. Then, "He mentioned a loan once in your name, said it would tidy up some old bits. He asked me what I thought of the interest rate. I told him it was high. He laughed and said, 'Don't worry, Hannah won't notice.' I should have told you. I know, I'm so sorry." I put my head in my hands. My marriage, my job, my credit score, everything suddenly felt like it was built on sand. The next day, I sat in a solicitor's office in the city, hands wrapped around a cup of tea I couldn't taste. I told him everything. The hidden flat, the coffee, the forged documents, the company money. When I finished, he steepled his fingers. "Your husband is potentially facing several serious issues. Fraud against your employer, fraud against you, forgery. If your employer cooperates, this could escalate quickly. But we need evidence. And we need allies." "Allies?" I repeated. "People who can back up your story," he said. "Your sister, your driver, anyone who's seen him do this. And Hannah." He looked me in the eye. "Until we sort this, don't confront him directly. You tip him off now, he'll start destroying evidence." So I went home and pretended everything was fine. For weeks. I smiled at Tom. I slept next to him. I went for drinks with Jess, my best friend, and listened to her talk about bad dates and how, "You're so lucky with Tom Hahn, solid men are rare." I wanted to throw my drink in her face some nights, for no reason other than that she was close to him. That's how twisted my head was. In the car, I turned to Marcus one afternoon as we idled at a light. "I'm not going to shout at you," I said. "I just need you to choose." He glanced at me in the mirror, eyes full of guilt. "Choose what?" "You can keep covering for Tom," I said. "And when this all comes out, he'll say you did it all, that you stole from me. Or you can help me. Tell me everything, dates, places, what you took where. I'll go to bat for you with my company, with the police, with whoever. I know he scared you, he scares me too, but he used us, Marcus, both of us." He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. Then he let out a breath. "What do you want to know?" "Start from the beginning," I said. "And don't leave anything out." It spilled out of him in broken pieces. The extra coffees weren't just for Tom. They were for the lady at the flat too, when Tom wasn't there. The errands to banks, always with sealed envelopes. The times he'd driven my sister to a solicitor's office to witness something. The afternoon runs to a hotel in Holborn. "At first I thought it was all just rich people stuff," he said. "Then one day I saw your name on a form he asked me to drop at a bank. I knew it wasn't right. He caught me looking and said if I ever crossed him, he'd tell everyone I'd been stealing from you. Said no one would believe me over him. I've got kids, Hannah. I panicked. You said the lady, I cut in, the one at the hotel. Who is she? He hesitated. I didn't know at first. Then the day you introduced me to your friend, Jess, at that Christmas thing, I realized it was her. Same voice, same perfume, same laugh. I felt physically sick. Jess, my confidant. The person I'd cried to about feeling distant from Tom, sitting across from me in bars going, "Men are trash," while meeting my husband in hotels. I stared out of the window, London blurring past. Okay, I said finally. Here's what we're going to do. I called my CFO and asked for a private, off-the-record conversation. I laid it all out. The shell company, Lily, Marcus's story, the forged signatures. I offered to put her in touch with my solicitor. To her credit, she listened. You understand we'll need independent proof, she said. We can't just take your word or your driver's word. You'll have it, I replied. I just need time to set it up. That's when the idea of the birthday trap started to form. Tom loves his birthday more than any grown man should. He once joked, if my birthday isn't a 3-day event, I'm filing for divorce. I decided to use that. A couple of weeks before I said, I've booked us a special dinner for your birthday. Just us. No phones, no work. He lit up. Finally, I've been feeling a bit neglected. The irony almost choked me. Behind his back, I booked a private room at a nice restaurant near Bank, the kind my company used for important clients. Then I called Jess. I'm planning a surprise for Tom's birthday, I said, forcing my voice to sound normal. Just close friends and family. Will you come? Obviously, she laughed. He's practically my brother-in-law. You're his only female friend, I said, letting that land. Wouldn't be right without you. I did the same with Lily. Don't tell Tom, I told both of them. I want to see his face when you walk in. Next, I looped in my CFO again and my solicitor. They arranged for the external investigator and a contact from the City of London Police's fraud team to book a table in the main dining room at the same time. My solicitor drafted a letter outlining everything we'd found so far, plus copies of some of the worst documents, forged agreements, bank authorizations, company payments. On the morning of his birthday, I handed a sealed envelope to Marcus. You're going to drop this to Tom at work, I said. Tell him I asked you to bring some forms he needs to sort. That's it. Don't hint, don't explain. His hands shook as he took it. You're sure you want to do it like this? Yes, I said. He's always used other people to do his dirty work. Today, he opened something with his name on it, in front of everyone. That evening, I put on a navy dress Tom always loved. As I brushed my hair, my hands trembled so much I had to sit down. There was still a part of me that wanted to believe this was all some mistake, that he would sit me down and say, it's not what it looks like, and somehow make it okay. That's how deep manipulation can go. But another part of me, the part that had stood in the rain outside that Hackney flat, knew better. At the restaurant, the private room was candlelit, immaculate. Tom walked in, looked around, and whistled. Wow, he said. Someone's after Wife of the Year. You only turned 36 once, I said, managing a smile. We ordered. We made small talk. He talked about work. I nodded and sipped my wine, feeling the weight of the envelope I knew was in his bag. 10 minutes in, I excused myself to check on the cake and slipped out to the main room. At a table near the back sat my CFO, the external investigator, and a serious man in a suit I recognized from the quick meeting we'd had at my solicitor's office, the police contact. He glanced up, gave the tiniest nod. My heart hammered against my ribs. I went back into the private room, and right on cue, the door swung open behind me. Surprise! Jess shouted, bursting in with Lily on her heels. Tom laughed, genuinely delighted. You too! He got up, hugging them both. He kissed Jess on the cheek. She smelled exactly like she had in Marcus's car that day. Expensive perfume and betrayal. We sat. They ordered drinks. For a while, it almost felt normal. Like the early years when everything felt shiny and full of possibility. I watched Tom joke with my sister, watched Jess drape herself over the back of her chair like she owned the room, and I thought, you have no idea what's coming. At some point between main course and dessert, Tom reached into his bag. Oh, by the way, he said casually, pulling out the envelope Marcus had given him that morning. You sent this with Marcus? I chucked it in here and forgot. Yes, I said. My heartbeat was so loud I could hear it in my ears. Open it. He smirked. Can it wait? It's my birthday, Han. Boring forms can open. It, I repeated. Maybe it was my tone. Maybe it was the silence from Jess and Lily, who'd both gone rigid. Either way, he tore it open, eyes skimming the first page. His face changed, all the color drained out of it. What is this? He asked. It's a copy of the consulting agreement you used to get my company to pay Reed and Morgan, I said, my voice steady. The company you set up with my sister's surname, using my login, my fake signature. Jess leaned over and grabbed the second page. Her eyes flicked across the words, then widened. Tom? I stood up. I wasn't shaking anymore. There are also copies, I went on, of the loan applications you did in my name, the bank letters you had Marcus deliver, and a lovely summary from my solicitor listing all the ways this could be considered fraud, against me, against my employer. Tom laughed, but it came out short and sharp. This is insane. Hannah, you've completely misunderstood. This was all tax planning. Everyone does it. Reed and Morgan is us. Reed, Morgan, family business. You're making it sound criminal. The City of London police might disagree, I said. Right on cue, the door opened and my CFO stepped in, followed by the investigator and the officer. Jess's face went white. Lily made a strangled noise. Tom shot to his feet. What the hell is this? He snapped. You're ambushing me with your work on my birthday? The officer spoke calmly. Mr. Reed, we're not here to arrest you tonight. We're here to inform you that an investigation is being opened into financial activity involving accounts in your wife's name and a company you co-direct. You'll receive formal notification. For now, I suggest you listen. Tom looked from him to me, fury flashing. You went to the police? He hissed. You're trying to send your own husband to prison because you clicked the wrong button at work? I met his gaze without flinching. I went to them because you lied to me, used my name, my job, my family to move money around like it was a game. You forged my signature, Tom. You recruited my sister. You bullied my driver. You cheated on me with my best friend. This is not about one mistake. This is a pattern. Jess sprang up, hands shaking. Don't drag me into your marriage drama, she said, voice high. I don't know anything about... You don't? I cut in. You don't know about the consultancy fees from my personal account to yours? Or the hotel bookings Marcus drove you to? You think I wouldn't check my own statements after everything? Her mouth opened and closed. She looked at Tom like he might deny it for her, like he always had for me. Lily started to cry. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I told them everything, Tom. I couldn't keep lying. He stared at her, betrayal and rage all over his face. You stupid girl, he spat. Do you have any idea what you've done? The officer stepped slightly between us, his presence calm but firm. Mr. Reed, I'd advise you not to insult witnesses in front of me. My CFO cleared her throat. Hannah has been completely transparent with us, she said. She came forward as soon as she realized something was wrong. You, on the other hand, have been siphoning company funds into a shell company. We'll be pursuing our own civil action, separately from whatever the police decide. Tom looked around, realizing, I think, for the first time that he wasn't the center of the room anymore. The charm that usually saved him, it wasn't working. You'll regret this, he said to me quietly. You think you've won? You've just destroyed your own marriage, your own life, over some stupid paperwork and a few coffees? I actually laughed then, a short, bitter sound. You destroyed it the day you decided my trust was a weakness you could use. I gestured around. This is just the lights finally coming on. He stuffed the papers back into the envelope like he could cram the truth away and pushed past the officer. Jess grabbed her bag and scurried after him, not meeting my eyes. The door shut behind them, leaving this weird, thick silence. I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for months. My legs wobbled. Lily rushed to me, sobbing, hugging me so tightly I could hardly breathe. I'm so sorry, she kept saying into my shoulder. I was stupid. I was desperate. I thought... I know, I said, stroking her hair. We'll fix it. But from now on, no more secrets, not between us. In the weeks and months that followed, everything changed, and nothing did. The police investigation became real very quickly. They took statements from Marcus and Lily. They requested records from my company. They combed through bank statements and emails. My solicitor handled most of it, thank God, because every time I saw Tom's name on official paper, my stomach flipped. My employer decided not to press criminal charges themselves as long as I cooperated fully, and they recovered most of the money. They froze payments to Reed and Morgan. They did a massive internal audit. The conclusion was clear. My login had been used for approvals when I was physically in meetings, often from a different IP address. Somebody had been logging in as me externally. Tom's laptop, which he'd sometimes use to help me with work, suddenly looked very different in my memory. My job survived. They put me on a sort of probation, extra checks on my approvals, regular check-ins with the CFO. But they kept me on. She said, "You were a victim of this, Hannah. You were also the one who brought it to us. Don't forget that." Tom's job didn't survive. His employer suspended him when they realized he was under investigation. Then they Let him go by mutual agreement. Sales is all about trust. No one wants a director who's being looked at for fraud. The divorce was messy. He tried everything. At first, he played the victim, telling anyone who'd listened that I'd lost it and was overreacting. When that didn't work, he got nastier. He claimed I'd known about the company, that I'd enjoyed the extra money. My solicitor calmly dismantled that with evidence. Emails I'd never sent, signatures that didn't match, Marcus's delivery logs, Lily's testimony. In the end, the court sided heavily with me. The house stayed in my name. Any joint debts that came from his schemes were assigned to him. The judge made some very pointed comments about breach of trust and financial abuse. Jess tried to act like nothing had happened at first. She texted me once, "Can we talk? You've got this all twisted." I didn't reply. Later I heard she'd quietly left her HR job. Officially, it was restructuring. Unofficially, well, HR and ethics tend to go together. Cheating with your best friend's husband while he's committing fraud doesn't look great on a CV. Lily had to face consequences too. Her firm did an internal review when they heard she'd been involved in setting up Reed and Morgan. She kept her job in the end, but she got a written warning and mandatory ethics training. Weirdly, it seemed to straighten her out. She started budgeting properly, stopped chasing approval from men like it was oxygen. Our relationship is still healing, but there's honesty there now that we never had before. Marcus lost his private hire license for a while. Technically, what he'd done with my card was wrong, even if it started small. But the statement I gave and his cooperation with the investigation helped. He avoided a criminal record. Last I heard, he was working nights in a warehouse trying to get back on his feet. He emailed me once on that old pay-as-you-go phone. "Thanks for not letting him pin it all on me." I replied, "Thanks for telling me the truth." As for Tom, the investigation dragged on, as these things do. Real life doesn't wrap up like a TV drama. There were endless meetings, letters, arguments over who was responsible for what. In the end, the charges were more about the biggest bits of fraud, company funds, the forged loan applications, than every tiny thing he'd done. He ended up with a conviction, a suspended sentence, and a very large bill to repay. No prison, but a record that would follow him everywhere. Doors that once opened easily started to close. LinkedIn went quiet. Mutual friends stopped inviting him to things. Some of them reached out to me privately saying, "We had no idea." I believe some of them. Others, I'm not so sure. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about how far it went, if I ever think I should have just divorced him quietly, not involved the police, not told my company, not ruined his career. The truth is, I did feel guilty. For a while. I had nights where I lay awake thinking, was I too harsh? Did I enjoy watching him squirm? There were moments, sitting across from him in mediation rooms, when he seemed so small and lost that my old instinct to comfort him kicked in. But then I'd remember opening that cabinet and seeing my name on documents I'd never signed. I'd remember my sister crying in that bar, saying she just wanted him to be proud of her. I'd remember standing in the rain outside that Hackney flat, watching him kiss another woman while my money paid for his coffee. And I'd think, no, the only person who ruined his life was him. Revenge for me wasn't about doing something cruel back. It was about refusing to cover up what he'd done, refusing to play the loyal wife while he used me as a human shield. It was making sure that when people looked up his name, they saw the truth, not just the version he told at parties. A few months after everything calmed down, I was walking through Shoreditch on my way to work, coffee in hand from Bean and Leaf, when I saw him, Tom, standing on the corner in a cheap suit, talking on a cracked phone. We made eye contact. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he crossed over. "You look good," he said, eyeing my outfit, my work bag. "Still at the same place?" "Yeah," I said. "They kept me. Turns out being honest helps." He flinched. "I never meant for it to get that bad," he said. "The money, the flat, Jess. It was supposed to be a phase. I got carried away. You know how driven I am." "I know how selfish you are," I corrected. "There's a difference." He glanced at my coffee. "Bean and Leaf," he said. "You still go there?" "Yeah." I lifted the cup slightly. "Difference now is, I'm the only one drinking it." He tried a smile. "You got what you wanted. The house, your job, everyone believes your version. Was it worth it, making me out to be some kind of monster?" I thought about it. About the tears, the legal bills, the awkward conversations, about the way my heart still twinged sometimes when I walked past places we'd been happy together. "It wasn't about making you a monster," I said. "It was about not letting you make me the fool." He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, then shut it again. "Take care of yourself, Hannah," he said finally. "You know no one will ever push you like I did." "I know," I said. "That's kind of the point." He walked away, swallowed up by the crowd. I stood there for a moment, then took a sip of my coffee. It tasted exactly how it should. Hot, strong, with that slight sweetness from the oat milk. Mine. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that the small stuff matters. A few extra pounds on a coffee charge, a face that tightens for half a second, a filing cabinet you've never opened because he's better with money. Those are the threads. You can choose to ignore them, or you can pull. Pulling hurts. It unravels things you thought were solid. It forces you to see people you love for who they really are. But it also gives you something important back. Control. My driver took my coffee for months. My husband took my trust, my money, my sister, my best friend. But in the end, by paying attention, by asking questions, by refusing to look the other way, I took everything back that really mattered. Not the house, or the job, or the savings, though I'm grateful I still have those. What I really got back was my own story, my own name on my own accounts, my own mornings, with a coffee I chose, paid for, and drank myself. And that, more than any dramatic scene in a restaurant or letter from a solicitor, is the real revenge.